Longworth, and welcome to another edition of Triad Today. Coming up later on, our roundtable gets into all sorts of discussions, so stay tuned for that excitement. But between now and then, some great guests and important information coming your way. For one thing, we'll give you some tips on how to get in shape and stay fit, be healthy. We'll do that. Plus, we'll sort of salute volunteers and volunteerism. And Dave Briggs will stop by to tell you about a cast member from Gilligan's Island who's coming our way. All that and much more. But first, we start out talking about Alamance Community College, and the reason I'm very excited and proud about this is because we've just come off this big thing about national basketball championships and sports competitions and whatever. These folks, especially the two seated next to me that you're going to meet right now, are involved in some very important competitions, and they are doing very well. And again, I'm very proud of them. Next to me, and returning, and they've both been here before, we're glad to have them back. Liz Riley is Department Head for Horticulture Technology at Alamance Community College. Next to her, Chef Brian Bailey, who is Department Head for Culinary Arts. Welcome back, gang.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Nice to be here.
We'll get to Brian in just a second. Liz, let me start with you. You actually hosted a national competition for landscaping and horticulture. Tell me about it.
Yes, so in March, a couple weeks ago, ACC was selected to host the National Collegiate Landscape Competition, which is sponsored by the National Association for Landscape Professionals. And this competition draws students and colleges, 4-year and 2-year colleges from across the country to come and compete. And there are 30 different competitions that these students compete in. Yeah,
and I think last time you were here, we were sort of previewing it, and you were telling people it was coming. And I think you told me then, or in an email you sent me, that there's like 800 students competing. But how many colleges participate in this? Do you have a number on it?
Yeah, there were 62 colleges from across the country, and there was one from Canada that competed as well.
Now, how have you done so far?
We placed 8th,
wow.
So we were within the top 10.
Wow,
yeah,
that
we
is something else. That is so cool. I'm so proud of you. And now, is this something that's likely to come back? I'm getting ahead of myself, but are you going to get to host this again, or is this just something that happens once every million years, or what?
We may be able to host it again. We felt very fortunate to be selected this time to host it. We were one of the only a few community colleges in the past 42 years that have been selected to host.
I just think it's a great honor. I just think it's great. Brian, let me turn to you for a second because we're talking about competitions. Your culinary team is still doing very well in national competition. Give me an update.
Yes, I'm very proud of the hot food competition team at Alamance. For the second time in 3 years, our student competition team is fortunate enough to go to the national competition in New Orleans this summer.
And they're not just cooking, and I say just, like I can actually cook, I can't. They're not just cooking and creating and being creative, but they're racing a clock in this competition, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a skills phase which is timed. It's an 80-minute relay, and then there's a cooking phase that they are, judged on time, organization, basic cooking skills, teamwork.
So they might have something really great they've created, but if they screw up and take too long, it's too bad.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now athletes, I talked about earlier about all these sports competitions. Athletes spend a lot of time practicing, on the court and on the field. Your folks do too.
Absolutely, and the thing that's kind of unique about this competition is that there's no class time that's used to practice. So these students, most of them are full-time students, have full-time jobs, and most of them have family obligations, and they're putting in close to 20 hours a week outside of those obligations to be a part of this competition.
We didn't rehearse this, but to what end, Brian? I mean, where do they want to go and do with these skills?
Most of these students end up being at the top of their game when they get into the industry. There's proven that students that participate in competition teams are always more successful in the industry.
And I know you guys have had a good track record with that, and coming out of Alamance Community College, they couldn't get better training, and I applaud both of y'all for that. One quick shout out before we go to the address and website. Brian's team, I think we have a photo of them. You want to give a quick shout out on their names very quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. We have Larry Winstead, we have Maria Lemon Cruz, we have Trevor Slosick, we have Mary Beth McCook, and Ian Macklin. I'm sorry, Ian is in there as well.
That's all right. Now, Ian's going to be really upset.
I know, he's going to give me a hard time.
Up on screen, but he got his picture on there anyway. So, Ian, here we go. Here's the website, and the website is www.alamancecc.edu. Please check that out to see all the great things that are going on. Maybe you two should team up and do like a horticulture, culinary thing where he cooks bark or something. I don't know.
That might not be very tasty.
No, it wouldn't. All right, but anyway, thanks for doing this. I'm proud of you. All right, we'll be right back after this. On Triad Today, I have a gentleman here with me who looks at me with great disdain because I'm overweight. No, he doesn't look at me with disdain, but he does help me try to think healthy, and he also wants me to get in shape, and so that's what we're going to talk about, getting in shape. Next to me, of course, our good friend, Dr. William Satterwhite. Bill is Chief Wellness Officer for Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you very much.
You're
Glad to be
always
here.
full of some great information. I want to quiz you now on fitness and getting in shape, okay?
Sure. Yep.
We all know we should exercise, but most of us don't, so the big question is why?
Yeah. I think the number one reason is our culture works against us.
What do you mean?
What I mean by that is this. A long time ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, people were more active at work. The job itself had you up and moving around. Life itself had people walking and moving more, and there was more time. Now there is just so little time, and we mostly sit.
For our jobs.
For our jobs. Even people in factories often are sitting down at computers,
That's
operating
right.
equipment.
That's right. I visited the factory the other day. I won't say where it was, but they were sitting down, at
Yeah.
what used to be a very active,
Yeah.
more blue-collar
Yeah.
type thing.
Very much that way. So it's very hard for people to say, when do I put that in? How do I get motivated? What do I do? I'm swimming now against the current.
Right. Now,
Instead of with it.
Suppose I start exercising regularly and I say, well, Bill, I'm doing this because I want to lose weight. And you look at me and say, well, that's okay, but you also believe there are other reasons to exercise.
Right, right. Here's the stunning thing. Activity, increasing activity, and we call it exercise or activity, but whatever it is, actually decreases your health risk of almost every bad thing you can think of. Whether that's cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke, I mean, the list goes on. And that's sort of the bad things that get pushed off. The good things is you'll be happier, you will sleep better, less anxiety, depression.
Less medications.
Less medications.
Not taking sleeping pills,
Yeah.
stuff like that. What are some ways that Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center supports fitness?
Well, lots of ways. I mean, as an institution as a whole, we have multiple sports medicine clinics. We actually have 3 of them, 2 in Winston, 1 in Greensboro, where we're not only seeing people who have injuries and things, but we also do a lot of research in that area to say, what are the treatments that help people get better more quickly? How can we make that happen? We support organizations just like the Twin Cities Sports Association.
Right.
And also Brenner Fit.
Yeah. What advice, let me shift gears a little bit, but it's not really shifting gears because I want to go to touch on childhood obesity before we run out of time.
Sure.
What advice do you have for tackling the problem of childhood obesity?
Yeah, I'm gonna steal the motto from the Brenner Fit program, the program that's been around for 10 years to help kids that have excess weight they need to lose. They basically say cook, eat, play, repeat. Cook, eat, play, repeat.
Right.
And that for families, if we can try, in spite of the culture, to cook more at home, it's almost impossible to cook less healthy than if you pick up food or eat out.
That's true.
Very
That's
true, right?
And even if you pick up a lean cuisine type thing and put it in the microwave, at least that's better than grabbing fast food. So.
Yeah, I mean, just the more that happens at home. The other thing that happens as a pediatrician, I'll tell you, is those children, when a family actually sits down and eats together, they do better in school.
Wow.
Simply by sitting there and eating.
Wow.
They do better with relationships. They have less school truancy. They have less depression, anxiety, suicide. I mean, you just pick your measure, and it seems to make a difference because they're connecting with family. Now, if you just sit there and watch TV, or if you see food as, our family has to eat. We fed the fish, we fed the dog, we fed the kids, we fed ourselves, check, check,
Right.
check. That's probably not going to do that.
It should almost be a social interaction thing,
Social
shouldn't it?
interaction.
Yeah, that's great. I know what I want to ask you about was events, because you touched
Yes.
on the fact that you support a lot of things that support fitness. Any kind of events that are sort of happen that we should keep in mind?
Yeah, multiple things actually. In addition to lots of different walks and runs in all the counties where we're present, we specifically do things as it relates to big items like Come and Race for the Cure, which is going to come up this month. And we also do American Cancer Relay for Life, which will be this month. And then many other things we sponsor as well, the March of Dimes, March for Babies,
Right.
a Heart and Stroke Walk, a Walk to Stop ALS, strokes,
That's just
Alzheimer's.
great. And up on screen, some websites that can give you more information about some of the things that Bill was talking about, wakehealth.edu/Best Health. There's also a website up for Brenner's Children's Pediatric Obesity information. Bill, thanks for doing this. Seriously, I know we joke around sometimes, but you just have such helpful information.
Oh,
and
thanks.
and
My
thanks for
pleasure.
all your leadership.
My pleasure.
All right. We'll be right back. Oh, back now on Triad today. I just made a sound with this bat. Very few people bring me a bat. Now, some people have threatened to use a bat on me, but very few people have brought a bat. We're going to tell you all about why I'm holding this up in just a second. But let me introduce you to our very special guest. Our good friend Jennifer Sterling is Director of Marketing and Communications for the Community Foundation of Greater Greensboro. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Now, I hear the foundation is celebrating a big anniversary.
We are 35 years. The foundation was created in 1983, made its first grant in 1985.
Wow.
So we've been around 35 years and looking forward to the next 35 and beyond.
I'm going to ask you a loaded question, and it is that how would you describe the foundation in terms of being different from other foundations?
Well, I think that a community foundation sort of starts in a different place. A lot of times you start with the money and then you find the project and the idea. The community foundation does some of that, but it has such deep knowledge of the community and
Right.
the needs that they're able to identify what organizations are doing what needs to be done and get on top of trends and really help educate donors about how their charitable gifts can go further and do the most good.
Yeah, we really don't talk a lot about this, and we hadn't planned on doing this, but I'll just put a plug in for making donations, and that is that you can, not so much donation, but in setting up, you can set up trusts. You can do all sorts of things with your money and let the folks at your foundation handle it, and you can designate where you want it to go to, right? So if I want to say I'm going to put something in my will, or I want to write a check now, it could be for education, or it could be to help dropout prevention or whatever. So you can really tailor those things, right?
You can. It can be something very specific, a particular organization. It could be what we call field of interest. So like you were talking about, just make sure that it goes to education. And we have a community-based grant committee that reviews those kinds of grants, and they have a very stringent process where they go through and evaluate the projects and programs and the organization and make those grants on your behalf.
That's great. Now, let me get back to the anniversary. What are you doing to celebrate the 35 years?
Well, we are doing several things. We are going to have a series of virtual town halls, and that's still under development, so encourage people to keep an eye out for that. And,
Right.
In our role as a leader in the community, we've done a very good job of being able to convene people around issues that concern
That's right.
the whole region, really. And
Yeah.
so we're looking at new ways to try to bring people together.
And then you have this bat. What is this game changer thing I hear about?
Well, a game changer by definition is a person or object or idea that disrupts or radically changes the outcome of an event.
Right.
So a game changer to us, along with our friends at the Greensboro Grasshoppers, is someone who's made a huge difference in their community. And what we're really looking for and what we really want to recognize are those people who are unsung. Those behind the scene people, we all know them. They're in
Right.
our neighborhood, our church, our Boy Scout troop, who work tirelessly, and you know they made a huge difference, but they're not going to get their name on a building.
Yeah, they volunteer every day for something that's very important, but you don't see them on the 6 o'clock news.
Absolutely.
And so now I see this bat is signed by Greensboro Grasshopper players. Now, how does this all tie into honoring game-changing volunteers?
Well, as part of their award, they've received tickets to a Greensboro Grasshopper game on a Saturday home game. Yeah,
Wow.
4 tickets. So that's really nice. They go out on the field where they're recognized, and we read their bio and the things that they've done in front of the whole crowd.
That's neat.
Yeah, it is really cool. And then they get that bat,
I would
which
love
is a
this.
team signed special edition Louisville Slugger. So that's
It's sort of symbolic of the teamwork that they all bring, to the table, with everybody volunteering and doing it without, regard for wanting publicity or anything, but they just do it because they like to do it. I just think volunteerism is so important. I know you do too. Now, can anybody suggest, very quickly before time runs out, can anybody nominate or suggest somebody?
Absolutely, and we're still taking nominations. Just go to our website at cfgg.org and you'll see where to click, where to go.
We can tell you know all about broadcasting because she just gave the website thing. I'm glad you did that. Jennifer, thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back after this. Back now on Triad Today. Always like it when this gentleman can stop by. Especially excited today because of some of the subject matter that we're going to cover. But on my right, our good friend Dave Briggs, who is director of the High Point Theater and really keeps the arts going in this area. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
And I want to say that we're going to get to something in just a second, but I'm going to hold up this copy of Yes Weekly that I want you to get because I have an article in there, not just because it's by me, but it's about somebody who's going to be performing at the High Point Theater. We're going to get to that in just a second. Now, let's start by talking about what's going on in April in general at the theater. Let's remind folks of a couple things we mentioned before. And the first one is on Golden Pond, April
April 5th, that's right, on Golden Pond. This is the national tour for On Golden Pond. Now, most folks remember the film with
Henry
Fonda and Jane Fonda and Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Old Poop.
The old poop.
So it's all about Ethel and Norman Thayer and their daughter Chelsea and the grandson, and so kind of a dysfunctional family, but they're also dealing with the aging process.
Right.
And it's to see it live on stage with actors is a little different from seeing the film
Because
version.
there's good dialogue in there, you know.
Terrific dialogue.
People really focus. That's
very
on
tender,
April the
yes.
5th. And are tickets still available on that?
Tickets are still available.
Okay,
sure
we'll put
are.
up box office numbers later. Now, the second thing I want to ask about, we covered this last month when you were here because we wanted to get it in people's mind. It's a show called Black Violin, and it's not about a black violin.
It is not.
But it's April 24th. What is that?
April 24th, which is a Tuesday night, which is an odd night for us to be doing shows. But these are two classically trained violinists. They play violin and viola, and then they have incorporated classical music with hip hop and jazz. This is the third time we've presented them. They always do great for us. They are remarkable.
Are these young guys,
These
old
are
guys?
young guys. They're in their late 20s, early 30s, and if you haven't had a chance to see them, you may not be able to see them at a theater as intimate as the High Point Theater
Right.
ever again.
Well, you
because
say
they're just-
intimate, but I mean, it's a pretty big theater. You all seat how many?
We see it at 9:30.
That's
Which is
930.
good
That's
size.
a lot of people.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is a good intimate setting. Now, we come to April 28th, and the reason I held up the Yes Weekly is because I have an article in there this week about the person that's going to be appearing on April 28th, Dawn Wells, who appeared in Gilligan's Island. Or if you look at the typo in Yes Weekly, she appeared in Gillian's
Jillian's
Island. Jillian's Island.
Whatever.
Okay. But anyway, it's Gilligan's Island. I like that. Brian likes that. It's a new show, Brian.
Dig
Our
the
floor
other
director is
media
going to go
forums.
home and he's going to
That's
say, where
right.
can I get Gillian's Island? Or is it Jillian's Island? Anyway, Dawn Wells is coming on April 28th, was on Gilligan's Island. She played Mary Ann, so tell me about that.
Well, she has written a book called What Would Mary Ann Do? And this is the Confessions Tour. So she basically takes what Mary Ann's persona was on Gilligan's Island and relates it to modern day.
Yeah.
So with all the technology and all those things. And then there's also a question and answer period.
That's going to be great.
And Dawn, she didn't just do Gilligan's Island. She did all those.
Lots of Westerns.
Lots of Westerns before that and many movies
Yeah, I talked to her on the
afterwards.
phone the other day, and I'd interviewed her before, as you know, and we talked about her lineage. Her great-grandfather was a stagecoach driver, and there she was playing in Cheyenne and all these old Westerns and Gunsmoke and all this stuff. And so she comes by it naturally, but she's quite a lady. Before we run out of time, there is some stuff coming up in May you wanted to plug, right?
We do. We have also one thing on April 27th. We have Double Trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Two African American piano players. They play four-hand piano, and it's got a little bit of Victor Borge mixed in with it. It's a lot
wow.
of fun.
Yeah.
And then in April, the Community Theater is doing Legally Blonde.
Okay.
And so that's a musical based on the film, and that should be a lot of fun as well.
Legally Blonde.
Legally Blonde.
is in April. So the double trouble and Legally Blonde are also at April. Okay.
Yes.
Quick thing for May. Anything you want to mention? or-
Just that. We're full of dance recitals and competitions and furniture market coming up very soon.
You're full of
Very
a lot.
busy.
You're full of a lot.
I'm
of things.
full of a lot
My
of
wife
things,
says I'm
that's
full
right.
of it, but I don't
Yeah,
know what that
mine
means.
too.
On screen is highpointtheater.com is the website, and for everybody in our radio audience, I'll say it again: www.highpointtheater.com. Box office number is 887-3001. Thanks to my good friend Dave Briggs. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
We'll be right back after this. On Triad Today, just about time for the roundtable, but just, of course, if you're adjusting your set, this is the first time Triad Today has been broadcast in HD in 15 years, so I'm probably got a lot more gray hairs and wrinkles than normal, or I'm whiter or something, who knows. Anyway, we'll deal with that later. But I'm going to deal with this right now. Next to me, on my right, is the very distinguished Dr. Don Martin. He's a professor at High Point University, former school superintendent, and also a vice chair of the County Commissioners in Forsyth. It just so happens that next to him is Dave Plyler, who is the chairman of the County Commissioners in Forsyth. Ogie took a little fall, and he's laid up in bed for a while, so we wish him well. And Dave and Don are sort of here to fill in. And next to them, speaking of filling in, a very distinguished guest who you've seen before here. I'd like to introduce you to him, the Honorable Mayor of High Point, Jay Wagner. Welcome to the roundtable, sir. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Now, our first topic is Greensboro City Council recently approved a $20 million incentives package to try and lure Publix into building a distribution center, that's Publix store, that would hire 1,000 people. Guys, are you okay with this? Don?
I'm okay with it. I actually looked at sort of that 20 million sounds like a lot, but there's a 10-year period of basically foregoing property taxes. Okay. So that's a big part of that. They're basically getting the property for them, some equipment, and 1,000 jobs at this time, that's a good deal.
Dave.
One thing a lot of people think that's going on is they're going to write them a check for $20 million, which is not the case, and they're doing the right thing and they're doing it at the right time.
All right, Mayor.
Yeah, most of these things are based on an established policy, and they're very much performance driven, done by agreement. Mm-hmm. So it's not a $20 million check, as was said.
Yeah.
They've got to meet certain benchmarks to get those incentives. And
But Mayor, while I've got you there, just to follow up on this, sort of play devil's advocate, Lowe's Foods has its footprint here and roots in this area, and they're not getting a $20 million incentive package to stay here. Doesn't that seem a little unfair to the competition?
Well, I think there's really two ways to look at it. There's nothing preventing Lowe's from building a distribution center and bringing 1,000 jobs and also getting an incentive. I think the people that it hurts are the mom and pop stores that don't have the ability to
get the incentives package.
To get the incentives package because they can't bring 1,000 jobs here.
All right, guys, switching topics, twice as many women are running for Congress this year than 2 years ago. Will the Me Too movement unseat lots of incumbents this fall? Don Martin.
I think it's possible. I'm not sure there's a direct correlation clearly between Me Too, but been a lot of congressmen have been involved in issues, and that's maybe sparked some more women interest.
Mr. Plyler.
Who knows? But I would say that at this point, I think it's going to be exciting in 2018 to see who's going to win.
Well, we just happen to have 3 politicians here and elected officials it's never happened before, but since we do, we're following up now with Mayor Wagner. What do you think?
I think that elections are typically won by whoever's voters are the most passionate about turning out. If that continues to drive turnout in new ways, then I think you could see some
new
some
registrations
change. New registrations, but mainly just you got to get your voters to the polls.
Right.
So if your voters are more fired up, they're going to be more likely to go.
Good point. Very quickly, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but guys, if Democrats should take control of Congress in the fall, can we look for Trump to be impeached on some charge or another? Don?
I don't think so. I think it'll be the next 2 years and we'll have regular elections.
All right, Dave.
I think we'd have to depend on Twitter.
Well, I do that no, I don't twit. All right, Jay.
I think there'll be some more on the radical left end who would want to do that. I don't see that happening.
Speaking of politics, meanwhile, a new poll says that 61% of voters want Hillary to retire and stay out of the public eye. If she keeps up a high profile, some Democrats say it's hurting their candidates. I don't know if you agree with that or not. Any quick thoughts, Don?
Maybe a mixed bag. She won the popular vote in the election, and it's a little hard to say.
Dave.
I'd just like to have an answer to the question, who is floating these rumors about 61% favors
I think Jay is
A or
floating
B?
the rumors. Yeah. Jay, what do you think? Should she stay out of the public eye?
I'm probably part of the 61%.
That's right, that you want her out of there. Okay. Very quickly, kind of a tragic story here. A United Airlines flight. This happened a couple weeks ago. A dog was put in the overhead compartment by a stewardess and flight attendant. I'm wondering if this goes to a lawsuit, who wins this, and is it time to ban animals from planes, I guess is the main question. Don?
Don't think it's time to ban animals. I mean, people, they're important, they are passengers, and they can be safely transported.
Dave?
I think the training program at United Airlines and all the airlines really needs to be improved.
Jay?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you can't ban, or you shouldn't ban pets on airlines. Maybe you could ban bad employees.
Yeah, ban the bad flight attendants. Guys, it finally happened. A driverless Uber car in San Francisco crashed into a pedestrian and killed her. I want to make this point again. There was no driver. It's a driverless Uber car. You think this is going to cause Uber to abandon the auto driver program, guys? Don?
I don't think it'll abandon it. I think they'll keep researching it, but it will set them back for a while.
Dave?
Now look at the percentages. How many millions and millions of automobiles are on the nation's highways all of the time?
With drivers.
And one car, even without a driver, doesn't make it.
Mayor?
Yeah, I think that's really the future for their business model, is to look at the driverless vehicles.
They're going to stay with it.
Yeah, I think they'll continue to research it and see what they can do to get it right.
All right, finally, guys, Hooters is closing many of its restaurants because it claims that millennial males are no longer interested in cleavage. Guys, what do you think of millennial males? Don?
I think millennial males are probably still interested, but they may not like to be in a facility or a place like Hooters. They may think
but they're still interested.
I think they're still interested.
Dave, what do you think?
I think they need to retake the survey and talk some of these millennial males. I don't think there's a problem.
Mayor, this is an undignified question, but
I think maybe I doubt that millennial men have probably changed that much. Maybe it's maybe they just like to eat healthier. They don't like the burgers
maybe
and the
they like
wings
to
as
eat
much
healthier.
anymore.
What kind of a political answer is that? Well, anyway, speaking of political, I want to thank all three of you guys for doing this. Again, this is our first time of having the three elected officials at one time. And
I'd like
Jay's,
to make a motion.
no, I wish you wouldn't. And Jay, thanks in particular for driving over to be with us.
I appreciate
and that's,
it.
Oh, I want to do this before time runs out. Kohl's just announced a deal with Aldi's to sell groceries in their department stores. Rumor has it their first joint product will be called Kohl's Slaw. What did you didn't like that, Dave?
And I'm proud of Don for smiling.
Yeah, I know. That's true. I thought Don liked it. For all of us here on Triad Today in high def, I'm Jim Longworth. We'll see you next.